Good morning. So I've been sitting here in my Jesus bubble this morning. That's what I call it when I tell my kids that I'm having quiet time with Jesus. And they're not supposed to disturb mommy because I'm, praying, reading, studying. So it's my Jesus bubble. But yeah, I'm in my Jesus bubble this morning, and I keep thinking as I'm reading about last night when I was at my local sheriff's department at their town hall meeting. And one of the things that they were talking about was the massive amount of modern human slavery. I'm super proud of my local sheriff's department because they take a very strong stance against human trafficking, the exploitation of children and the vulnerable, and the pornography industry, which is tied in with human trafficking and exploitation. And some of the statistics they shared last night, 40.3 million people today are in slavery, more than any other time in the history of the world. 40.3 million people. And that includes labor and sex trafficking. It's over $150 billion industry per year. And so, that kind of stuff, I have a major justice gene, and the exploitation of vulnerable people really, really burns me up. I want to go and help. And that's something I've done for a long time. But as I was thinking and reading this morning, I happened to be reading in Matthew chapter 23 and in Amos chapter 8. Amos 8 says, "Listen to this, you who rob the poor and trample down the needy. You can't wait for the Sabbath day to be over and for the religious festivals to end so you can get back to cheating the helpless. You measure out grains with dishonest measures and cheat the buyer with dishonest scales. And you mix the grain you sell with chaff swept from the floor, and you enslave poor people for a piece of silver or a pair of sandals." And then it skips down verse 11. "The time is surely coming when I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread or water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. People will stagger from sea to sea and wander from border to border, searching for the word of the Lord and cannot find it." And I was thinking about the world that we live in today and how often we just kind of keep our heads down and go along with everyday life and have no idea of what's going on right around us. It's really easy for us to think of slavery as something that happens in another continent, or something that happens to really poor people in a third world country, or something that happens to just other people, them, not me, them, not us. And that's a great way to keep ourselves distanced from it, but I believe that God has a sense of outrage and anger. Righteous indignation is what some Bible translations call it. I call it outrage at exploitation. Whatever you call it, God is okay with us getting mad when people misrepresent his character of love. When his character of love is totally misrepresented to the world, when people are exploiting others, sometimes even in the name of God, it is often happening in a pew near you, even when you go to church. And I believe that acting in power over other people, taking away people's freedom of choice, is absolutely opposite to the character of love that God shows in whatever way that shows up. So if God is a God of love and freedom, then the question that I'm left to ask myself is, how am I acting in ways that that misrepresent the character of love and freedom that God has, or that take away other people's potential for love and freedom, that exploit or benefit from someone who has been exploited? And honestly, if you look seriously at all aspects of our life, there are so many ways that we benefit from the exploitation of other people, and we just are blind and ignorant to it. And I believe God wants us to take notice of that more. The other verses that I was reading this morning tie in so beautifully with this, and that is Matthew 22, 37 to 39. And this is where the young man came to Jesus and he said, "Teacher, which is the most important commandment?" He wanted to be righteous, and he wanted to be, he wanted to get it all right. And Jesus replied Instead of giving him a way to take power over other people, Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And if we're talking about our heart, that's in our emotions. Our mind is in our intentions and our thoughts, the way we think on purpose. And our soul is in our spiritual dedication, the marriage between the heart and the mind. So Jesus says, love God with everything that is in you. Give yourself completely to God. And then he follows it up. The second one is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. So what I was left thinking with, it just kind of all solidified for me this morning as I was reading those, and then just thinking about what had happened last night and those statistics from my local town hall meeting, and how often we just live oblivious to not only how we may be taking away the freedom of someone else, but also how we may be subliminally benefiting from the exploitation of someone else, emotionally, physically, or even spiritually. So that's my question that I'm asking myself today. How can I not only continue to seek to love God with everything that is in me, but also to show that love in ways to other people? Because if I truly love God, I cannot participate in anything that allows other people or allows myself to benefit from other people being exploited. So if there's something you're wrestling with, drop me a comment and tell me what you're thinking about this. How can you love God more fully and show that by refusing to participate in ways that other people are exploited or that takes away the freedom of choice and the representation of God's loving character to those other people? And those are my thoughts from my Jesus bubble this morning. Have a great day.